Today on Big Ticket Money Habits, we are looking at why businesses fail. Perhaps, am I saying that you fail because you're not thinking big enough? I want to encourage you to stay with us today so we can do that deep dive into big ticket money habits. And at the end of the day, you will be able to take away a number of tips and tricks that can really set you up for greater success in business. Today, with me in studio, I have two exceptional and personalities in studio. And first, I have Peter Scott, and Peter Scott, he is the brain behind Legacy Chronicle and Human Growth Program. That program is designed to focus a lot on human resource development and having your master plan. Hey, Peter, good to have you here.
Great to be here, Gary.
We also have um, Clement Frank, and Clement Frank, and he is an economist by profession, and he is a leader by practice, and he's also the author of the new book, Sound Business Leadership. So it's great to have you guys today as we go into today's discussion. How was your weekend, and how was the day being to you so far?
Just
Yeah,
fine.
it's been
Good.
it's been good. It's
Mhm.
becoming
Yeah.
holding the fort.
Ah, ah, ah.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. Well, I'm excited to start today's program. I'm going to share some ideas in terms of what research is actually saying. And when we host these programs like the big ticket money habits, we're doing this largely to help rising stars in business and to help people to really get a genuine understanding as to what it takes to be successful. Now, again, what the research is showing is that many businesses fail because there is limited or no budgetary allocation for research. Perhaps you're not having budgetary allocation because you're not positioning yourself to be that big ticket thinker. A big ticket thinker will ensure that they have adequate budgetary allocation for market research, particularly in the context of business. And let me spend some time just explaining why making budgetary allocation for market research is important for the business. Now, one of the things that market research helps you to attain is knowledge of the ideal client. All right, knowledge of the ideal client. Now, why having knowledge of the ideal client is so important? You see, when you're going to market as an entrepreneur, as a rising star in business, you're going to market with products and services, and that products and services doesn't reflect necessarily your personal interest. All right. The products and services that you're going to market with, it has to reflect the interest of the ideal client. But if you have no research that is helping you to identify who is the ideal client, it undermines your ability to build your personal brand, and it undermines your ability to build your corporate brand. So doing that market research, making that budgetary allocation to market research is really ground zero when you want to set yourself up to be a big ticket thinker, to master big ticket money habits and position yourself for success in business. So I just want to leave these few thoughts with you. And when I come back, I will go deeper into the importance of market research because it is so vital to you and your business. So, in conclusion, I want to say a couple of things. If you do not understand your ideal client, it means that you are in a compromised state when it comes to building your your personal brand. Because building your personal brand should be based on the knowledge of the ideal client. Again, if you don't understand the ideal client, you are in a compromising state when it comes to developing your corporate brand. because your corporate brand should be based on knowledge of the ideal client. And if these two things are compromised, your business model in of itself is going to be compromised. And all of this is happening simply based on the fact that you have not made budgetary allocation, adequate budgetary allocation for market research. So, to position yourself to be that big ticket thinker, to learn, apply, and master big ticket money habits in the context of business, you must make budgetary allocation for market research. So I'm going to pause here and I'm going to turn to Frank and then I'm going to come right over to Peter. Frank?
Hi, thanks, Gary. Great being here again as usual. Um, we're talking about the power of thinking big. One of the things I've come to know after all these years is that whatever the mind of a man can perceive, he can achieve. And so it all starts when a seed is planted in the mind of thinking big in business, thinking big in life. And the power of thinking big in business is where my focus will be on this morning. And the tips for achieving more. And if there's one thing that can be said about business, is that the thinkers often have an edge over their competitors. When you're able to dream big and see the possibilities of your business, the sky's the limit. And if you want to achieve more, you need to set your sights high and, as I say, shoot for the stars. The concept of thinking big is definitely not a new one. In fact, this has been a part of the entrepreneurial mindset since the dawn of commerce. However, the idea of thinking big has taken on a new significance in this current business landscape where innovation and disruptions are becoming increasingly essential for success. Thinking big is all about a vision that extends beyond the immediate future. It's about identifying opportunities and challenges that lie ahead, and then taking bold steps to address them. It's about staying focused on long term goals. It's about being ambitious and not being afraid to dream big. By thinking big, you create a mindset that is focused on growth, focused on innovation, focused on progress. And one of the most significant advantages of thinking big in business is that it helps you see the bigger picture. When you focus on the details of say, day to day operations, it can be easy to lose sight of the broader context of your business. But if you think big, you force yourself to take a step back and look at the big picture. It's what we call a panoramic view. And this can help you identify trends, patterns, and opportunities that you might otherwise miss. It also helps you stay ahead of the curve as you're better positioned to anticipate changing market and adapt to them. And another advantage of thinking big is that it forces you to take risks. When you're focused on small incremental improvements, you're less likely to take the kind of risk that can lead to big breakthroughs. However, by thinking big, you're more likely to take the calculated risk that can pay off in a big way. Of course, not every risk will pay off, but by taking a calculated risk, you'll increase your chances of success. And thinking big also helps you attract top talent. When you have a big, ambitious vision for your business, you're more likely to attract employees who share that vision And these are kind of employees who are motivated by more than just a paycheck. They want to be a part of something big and meaningful. And so by attracting top talent, you create a virtuous cycle that feeds on itself. The more talented people you have working for you, the more you can accomplish and the more attractive your business becomes to even more top talent. Perhaps most importantly, if you're thinking big in business, you help it helps you create a sense of purpose. When you have a big vision for your business, you're not just in it for the money. You're in it to make a difference. I'll repeat that. When you have a big vision for your business, you're not just in it for the money. You are in it to make a big difference. And this sense of purpose can be incredibly motivating both for yourself and for your team because it helps you stay focused even when things get tough, and it provides a sense of direction that can be invaluable in guiding your decision making. Of course, thinking big isn't always easy. In reality, it can be quite daunting to set your sights on something that seems out of reach. However, by breaking down your big vision into smaller, more manageable goals, you can make progress towards your big vision one step at a time. And this incremental approach can help you build your momentum. It can help you gain confidence as you move towards your ultimate goal. When I return, I'll give you a few steps for putting this theory into practice and achieving business success. Thank you, Gary. Over to you.
All right, thanks for that share, Frank, great nuggets. And Peter, all to you. You're mute, Peter.
Yes, yes, okay, that would make a big difference. Yeah, just
Mm.
listening to Frank as he speaks about having a big vision for one's enterprise, whether it is an individual or they are enterprise, a mid-sized or large-sized enterprise. The concept of having addressing the big ticket or the big vision of their enterprise is always essential. And out of that, to have a balance between macro engagement and micro engagement, which is what we love to embrace or love to communicate about as it relates to master planning. Because big thinking certainly engage a kind of thinking where you have to master and understand the broad view of what it is an enterprise or an individual is hoping to achieve. They have to see themselves and their enterprise from the scope, the small market that they or the environment, the individual small environment that they are a part of. But then in a global economy, they have to have this macro view of what they're trying to accomplish and to achieve. But what I also recognize is that businesses fail, yes, for lack of big thinking. But if we should look at the in relation to what we call market share, having market share. And what we do find is in the marketplace, a lot of businesses or individuals, um, startup entrepreneurs, they sometimes do not understand there is a concept of the red ocean and the blue ocean. And sometimes when individuals entering into the marketplace, they have this feeling that there is not enough space, and that there is this component of competition, negative competition in what we have in a red ocean. And the red ocean concept is like when there is an in the ocean when there is a prey that has eaten and it is a prey that has been devoured and it is bleeding, and it now attracts all this attack, from other, say from an infested water of sharks jumping in, and then there is this red ocean, a small uh, prey or a small segment of the community, and everybody is seeking to serve that small community, which drives, as I said, negative competition. And what happens there? Price depletion, and everybody's just going after the bottom of the ocean where pricing is concerned. But having a big vision of discovering the blue, beautiful ocean, there is enough for everybody. There's a space for everyone to participate in. And that concept of the blue ocean can be understood when businesses understand categories, business categories, the categories and the subcategories. So it's not just a matter of the top tier of solutions and problem solutions that are there in the marketplace. They're all, every top tier market can be broken down into sub markets, and it can also be, there is always breaking down, niching. And if you are entering into a red ocean, what it means that the entrepreneur, the business must now look at, how do I break down this into a subcategory? Whatever categories are there, can I break it down into another category? And so having a master plan approach in thinking and planning and developing and brainstorming, you will always find another category, another niche, another deeper level of service that can be brought to the marketplace. So we do understand that every part of the market, well, the market is broken down. Let me put it this way: the market is broken down in four categories. There's four categories of service when it comes to human needs. Uh, there's four categories human needs can be served, and it is in health, wealth, relationships, and then the time that it's going to take to provide or to administer those health, wealth, and relationship issues in individuals' lives. And each of those categories can be broken down into subcategories. In the health area, every known profession, when you begin to break down the issues of health, it can go from spiritual, from providing spiritual health, all the way down to psychological health, physiological, biological, the person at a personal level, social, financial, environmental, and the wealth, the area of wealth can be broken down in the same area, because if there is a wealth issue, then more often it's going to start with a spiritual health. So every category can be broken down, and then you can spread that out from the personal level. You can take that from the personal level, and then you can apply that same four categories is also applicable not just for an individual, but it is applicable for families. It can be spread out a little bit to a greater dimension, where the same categories can be spread out to the community. And then those same categories can be diverse into the corporate, where a corporate entity, it is the same thing. Every corporate entity, health, wealth, relationships, and appointments, which can be broken down into subcategories. So when you have master planning, or as Frank was talking about, that having that being able to see a big vision, and you start with the macro, and you realize how huge the ocean is, then individuals individual can begin, or an entity can match their skill sets to understand that there are so many areas that they can pick, choose, and test which of this vast blue ocean is best suited to their skill sets and the enterprise, their employees, all that they are bringing to the table. They can now have enough data to enter into the marketplace and really serve. So having a sense of an understanding of the balance between there is the red ocean and the blue ocean, and how to create a blue ocean out of the red ocean by developing categories and subcategories to serve the need of the human person. They will definitely begin to advance successfully without having to the feeling that there is a competition and that they have to be basing things on price and all the negative competitions that can come out of that. So I'll come back and go a little bit deeper in my next round.
All right, that was a lot to take away. Um, Peter, red ocean and blue ocean. All right. Hey, Elmore, how you keeping?
Good. How are you?
Working hard as ever. All
Welcome,
right.
Emma.
Mm, yes. All right. What we are doing today, we're looking at big ticket money habits. We're looking at why businesses fail. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to expand a little bit further on the points I started to make. What I'm saying is that many businesses fail because of limited or no data. And this is what I want to say. Money is on the data. So when we are thinking big ticket money, it should be based on the data. When we are thinking having that big vision, it should be based on the data. You need to take speculation and guesswork out of the whole equation of doing business. And what I find very tough to understand is that today, as a modern entrepreneur, a rising star in business, you're using speculation as an expert opinion to position yourself for success. That in of itself is set to undermine your potential to attain any level of success that you're going after, because you have no guiding principles to influence that desired outcome that you want. So let me go deeper into this. I begin this program by saying that many businesses fail because they do not have that big ticket thinking. Many businesses fail because you have a limited or no budgetary allocation for market research. And why market research is important. In the first instance, I identify that it helps you to identify your ideal client. If you don't know your ideal client, why attempt to innovate products or services? Why attempt to integrate your content into the market? Because you're using speculation and money is on the data. But let me go a little deeper into why market research is so important. There's a concept that we talk about. We talk about your MVO. Your MVO means your minimum viable offer. So you're coming to market with your MVO. Your MVO could be the lowest hanging fruit in which you're coming to market with, or it can be the highest price product because you're now targeting a premium demographic. You need to understand your MVO. But how do you put yourself in that position of strength to really say that you understand your value offer? What we see is that many rising stars in business, you just have a value offer. You arrive at a value offer. It's like a mother giving birth magically. A mother has to go through 9 months, before she give birth. How do you arrive at your value offer? You should be taking the time to really understand who the value offer is for and ensure that that alignment is taking place. Now, one of the things that you want to do with your value offer is to stress test it, but you can't stress test it if you are not doing research. You can't stress test it if you don't have budgetary allocation to do that research. So if you're not stress testing your value offer, your minimum or most viable offer, it means that you're speculating in business. And if you're speculating, again, you have set yourself up for failure. So what I'm going to attempt to do here is to give a picture of what stress testing represents. One of the things that you want to know with any offer that you're going to bring to the market is how relevant it is. Now, how do you know that your consultancy firm is relevant? How do you know that the book you're writing is relevant? How do you know that the fitness gym that you want to establish is relevant? How do you know that the cosmetology school that you want to start is relevant? Are you going to use speculation or are you going to use data? Data is in the money is in the data. And when you take the data out of your efforts to make the money, you have already compromised that big vision that you have. So you need the data. All right. The data is going to help you to understand if you are relevant to the ideal client. So I really want you to pause a bit and really ask yourself, am I relevant? Is my products and services really relevant to the ideal client? You can't answer that because in most cases, you don't know the ideal client. So how can you say you're a big ticket thinker? How can you say that you are applying yourself to master big ticket money habits and you don't have the data? You've set yourself up to fail. You've put yourself in a compromising position, and that's not what you want to do. How do you stress test your MVO? The next thing that you want to know is how viable your project is. So you jump into the red ocean instead of the blue ocean without having an understanding as to how viable your product is, how viable your service is. And this happens because you're jumping into oceans with no data. You need data to guide your steps and your pathway towards success. What is the data saying about the viability of the products and services that you offer into the market? Now, if you don't know this, it means that you are speculating, and that's not healthy for business. Let's move one step further. So you have established brand relevance, you have established brand viability, but guess what? How about market accessibility? There are many persons that starts a business, but then you never really pause to see if you have access to the market. And sometimes getting access to the market could prove to be extremely difficult. And here you're talking about big ticket money habits, but then you don't have the ideas about it. Here you want to be a big ticket thinker, but then you don't have the information about market access. You're going to set yourself up for failure. And that's why you see we give so much of time on these programs is to really provide you with a content of information to help you to make better, smarter, wiser business decisions that will set you up to optimize your business growth and cash flow much faster. So you want to know that whatever products and services that you're offering, that you have access to the ideal client. But in many cases, you don't even know who's the ideal client. Much less to come to that next step to say that I have access to my ideal client. You don't have the data. All right. Stress testing. Are you reaching an urgent and immediate need? How do you know this? You did not make adequate budgetary allocation for market research to collect this type of information, that's going to help you to make better, smarter business decisions that's going to set you up for success. You're speculating your way to success, and that's speculating your way to failure. And that's not something that you or anyone, any rising star in business should be doing. So there's a few things more that I want to say, but I'm going to conclude here. And when I come back, perhaps I'm going to close it off with some of the other things that you need to know when you're stress testing your operation. And I want to say this, and I want to be lucidly clear about this. To start and scale a business is a very exciting, prospect. But I want to say this: it takes many moving parts to position that business for success. It takes many moving parts. Now, you don't need to know everything. You don't need to know everything, but you should at least ensure that you are building a team that has the essential body of knowledge to move that vision forward. All right. I'm not going to say to you, become the economist. I'm not going to say to you, become the public relation specialist. I'm not going to say to you, become the cultural anthropologist. But I'm going to say to you, as you build out your strategic, tactical, and operational team, whatever human resources is essential to move the vision forward, you want to make sure that you have the right body of dynamic team players on your side. That's how the big ticket money habits players play the game. And if you want to be that big ticket player, you need to adopt some of these traits to position yourself for greatness. The last thing that I'm going to say on this topic here for now is that if you don't have the team, you can subcontract. If you don't subcontract, you can attract mentors, you can attract coach, you can attract sponsors, you can attract supportive communities that are there for you. And that's what we have here. In our community, you have mentors, you have coaches, you have sponsors. Because in the US, if you need access to capital in 50 states, we're going to set you up to access capital. That's not a problem. All right. We can set you up to access the much needed capital that you need to grow and scale your business. That's not a problem. We're here to provide that type of support. But we're saying to you things that you need to do to position yourself for greatness, to position yourself for success, to position yourself as that big ticket money player, because you now know the big ticket money habits. All right. So take these notes, because I'm certain that they can set you up for success in business, and they're going to help to reverse the failure rate of so many different businesses. Now I'm going to come to Frank, because I know Frank has limited time, and then I'm going to give Elmore some time to talk to us about his book today. Frank, all to you.
Thank you very much. And when I close out the last time, I was saying that thinking big isn't always easy, and that can be quite true, daunting in reality. But I also say that if you break down that big vision into smaller bits, more manageable goals, what can happen is that you can make progress towards your big vision one step at a time. So here are some tips for putting this theory into practice and achieving that business success. The first is that you have to believe in your ability to achieve big things and stay accountable. When it comes to being a leader, believing in yourself and your ability to achieve great things is essential. If you don't have self-confidence, you can easily become derailed by self-doubt and fear, which results in missed opportunities, which results in like a lackluster result. You see leaders who have faith in their capabilities and their abilities They are the ones who are able to achieve extraordinary things. So by thinking big and taking bold actions, they can inspire others to greatness and create a lasting impact. You like face challenges and make mistakes along the way, and as a leader, you need to recognize that you are accountable for your actions and your decisions. And this means taking responsibility when things go wrong and being willing to face the consequences. It also means being open to feedback and criticism, using it to improve your leadership skills. Um, Leaders who are not accountable will not be successful in the long run. So be transparent about your shortcomings. Be willing to learn from your mistakes. In other words, we're saying be human. Um, your team respects you more when they see that vulnerable side. Successful leaders are not afraid of failure, knowing that taking risks is essential to achieving greatness. And they also understand that failure is not a setback, but an opportunity to learn and grow. So, by embracing challenges, the leaders that are successful, that are sound, inspire their teams to push beyond their limits and achieve things they never thought possible. And then you need to surround yourself with supportive people and invest in performance coaching. It is essential to have a strong network of positive individuals who encourage and motivate you to pursue your aspirations. If there's a lack of support, it can lead to demotivation and derail your progress. So you build a circle of supporters who believe in your vision and that they see your vision as crucial. You have to work towards big goals step by step and learn as you go. And just as important as your big goals is the ability to break them down into smaller achievable steps. By taking one step at a time, you can then progress without getting maybe say overwhelmed by the big picture. Additionally, if you take small steps, it allow you to learn as you go. You adjust your approach, you make necessary changes to your plan because every step that you take towards your big goals brings you closer to achieving them. So stay focused on the process, celebrate your small successes, keep moving forward. You got to remember that success is not achieved overnight, but rather through consistent effort and progress over time. Then you need to take action. Don't be afraid to start, even if you're not sure how it will turn out. Because too often we allow our doubts, we allow our fears to prevent us from taking action. And we tell ourselves that we're not ready, we need more experience or knowledge. It's easy to get bogged down in the details of a project and then you lose sight of the big picture. But when this happens, it can be difficult to take the first step because we're not sure how it will turn out. But the truth is, there's never a perfect time to start. And even if we're not sure how something will turn out, it's always better to take action and learn from our mistakes than to do nothing at all. Because when we think big and utilize resources, we can take advantage of opportunities and build towards our goals. And finally, celebrate every accomplishment as a step closer to achieving your ultimate goals. Big thinking starts with small accomplishments. And every time you celebrate an accomplishment, no matter how big or small, you are one step closer to achieving your ultimate goal. When you're thinking big, it's easy to get discouraged when you don't see results immediately. But when you focus on the small accomplishments along the way, it will help keep you motivated and moving in the right direction. It doesn't mean that you should get complacent. Instead, view each accomplishment as a motivating force that propels you forward. Use your successes as a way to gauge your progress and then you adjust your strategy as needed. Eventually, uh, all of those small steps will add up to the big results. So you need to celebrate every accomplishment as a step closer to achieving your big goals. And to wrap this up, the power of thinking big in business cannot be overstated. You see, by having a big, ambitious vision for your business, you create that mindset, that culture that is focused on growth, that is focused on innovation, that is focused on progress, that is focused on purpose. Purpose. So you're positioned to see the big picture. You take calculated risks. You attract the top talent. Create a sense of satisfaction for yourself and for your team. Now, while thinking big isn't always easy, it is essential for success in today's rapidly changing business landscape. So, if you're not already thinking big, start now. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that share. I'm Frank. If you're not thinking big, get a mentor, get a coach, get a sponsor, get a supportive community that can really help you to rethink and retool and reapply yourself. And just to conclude on what Frank was saying there, I do believe it's so important to, as you position yourself to be that big ticket thinker, to master big ticket money habits, it's important to really pause a bit to ensure that you understand the micro factors, the smaller factors that influences that big ticket outcome. And those small micro factors all relates back to processes. Take the time to really understand processes and understand how to systemize your processes. As time progresses, we will continue to go deeper into these things and just to ensure that you know how to apply yourself. And what I want to say to you here is that the body of knowledge that we're sharing here with you comes from many, many, many years of doing what we're doing and helping many rising stars in business. All right, that's why the books are being written. That's why we're sitting here allocating time to really help you and really understand how to become that big ticket thinker, to master the big ticket money habit. So thanks for that share, Frank. With that being said, Elmore, it's been a while. You want to give us an update on the book? Talk to us a little bit about your book.
Yes, yes. The my voice is a little bit not right, so bear with me. But as I was going through this week and having this the book printed in my hand and going through the excitement and dealing with the family at the same time, I have something that I like to share that I think it just allows me to just bring up that we have something that is happening in our present time that I have written about in the book, and that it's now it's essentially this week it started to be a conversation of a top topic because the petrodollar might not come back. The petrodollar might be gone. The petrodollar days are over. These are humongous changes that are going to happen to the marketplace. This is something that I'm very excited about, not just because, like Peter said a couple weeks ago, that the market was vindicating me, but that this is information that if you don't really understand what that petrodollar system was about and how it came to be and where it was going, you really don't think that this is a big news for you that might not affect you in your future or in your daily living. But we must be understanding of what anything that happens at a great scale is always going to have its ripple effect on the every other status of society. And having this whole entire conversation that I have been kind of keeping up with about the petrodollar going away substantially, and Saudi Arabia not wanting to redo the whole entire deal with the United States dollar.
Lopez.
Excuse
Mm. Yeah, I don't think a lot of the listening audience will follow you when you say petrodollar. Can you help us to understand petrodollar and in your book and
Yes.
what the book sets out to help people to understand about the petrodollar?
So
What is a petrodollar?
in my book about page 17 moving forward is pretty much a good explanation of what the petrodollar system is. But I just want to give the viewers a very small, I guess, the fastest definition to that. The petrodollar was a system that it was implemented in the 70s, right around when this new fiat currency came about. But this was a deal to where it was made directly with Saudi Arabia and the OPEC, to where every transaction that happened in oil for every country around the world had to be done in US dollars. You couldn't use your national currency. You had to exchange it to dollars in order to you to be able to purchase the crude oil from that country. That's the simplest form to be able to explain the petrodollar. And it's something that is one of the two things. Okay, so the
How
petrodollar.
different or how similar is the petrodollar to the fiat currency?
So the fiat currency, it's what it's been put in place as let it be done. So that's what fiat means, right? And so they created the fiat currency, and then around the same time that fiat currency was being launched, in order to be able to make the fiat currency the world's reserve currency, they needed to have two things in place, and this was by force with the biggest army possible, and second of all is to be able to essentially have the whole entire world through a contract be forced to exchange their gold or whatever currency of their nationality they have over to United States dollars in order for them to be able to purchase the oil from Saudi Arabia. This was what they called the petrodollar deal. It was worked by one of the
Mhm. So,
individuals
so when
that,
we look at the petrodollar and the fiat currency,
yeah.
and in the context of your book, what is it that your book is attempting to accomplish by looking at the petrodollar and the fiat currency?
So when I
How
wrote,
do you want that book to impact people's lives?
so I want people to understand that now it is even more vital to understand the ecosystem in place, because this means that we're going to go through changes now. And as the part end of the book, it's pretty much allowing you to understand what the blockchain system is and allowing you to understand what the new currencies that could come through the blockchain are, like central bank digital currencies. And now we have the stable coins that are becoming a stable through to many different ledgers. And so one of them, just not to put out any names, but there's a ledger that is created their own stable coin. And so to go back to your question, here, what's going on is that we have now a limited amount of time to understand that the US dollar has come to its end of its days. And
Mm.
because of
No,
this,
but I'm following that. But you talk about the blockchain. You want people now to come across the
yes,
blockchain.
yes, okay,
And what level of safety and security, and what are some of the key benefits of the blockchain that people need to know about?
oh, this is perfect. Thank you for that question. So the things that people need to understand about the blockchain, first and foremost, is the transparency that the technology brings, because the blockchain allows for every transaction. It doesn't matter with whether it was made with whichever cryptocurrency that was built on the blockchain technology, but the blockchain technology itself, it comes without the ability to become uncorrupted, and that's the transparency that brings to it. So the whole entire ecosystem, or the whole entire blockchain, with the ecosystem that it's implemented on, it allows the ecosystem to, every time a transaction happens, there is an audit that takes place. That's the security of being sure that the transaction is one half the value, and second, it's going to be
I
able.
really love, I must say, I really love your level of confidence in the blockchain to say that it's said to be uncorrupted.
So I just understand this ecosystem deep. So what's going on is that what makes what makes what makes the blockchain such a strong technology is not that it's just an up and coming technology, is that it carries a characteristics that one of them is that it's non-crossable by any, so nobody could really sanction it. There is no government force that can sanction the blockchain like fiat currencies can be sanctioned. Another thing is that it's borderless, so you can essentially don't worry, you don't have to worry about sanctions, or
Um,
you don't have to worry about countries that are not doing business with your country. Then number three would be that it is refutable. So because of the every time a transaction happens, there is a
mhm.
that takes
All
place.
right.
So
We're gonna
what
go
makes it so
deeper.
strong?
Yeah, we're gonna go deeper. I'm just trying to help you to bring out certain points that
No,
I
thank
think
you.
can help the audience. Um, but the point of uncensored, I mean, it is a double-edged sword. And the reason of having any currency be sanctioned by the state is that you want it to be subjective to the SEC. It being subjective to the SEC and being sanctioned by government is not only for government control, but it's also for investors' safety. And we have seen what had happened before the full development of the SEC courts. There were so much of loopholes, and financial market specialists, they leverage that to their advantage, and some with no recourse, because the way law works is not retractive. The law must be in place that clearly established the penalty for there to be penalty. And if there's no law established for penalty, you may be able to do things under the guides of capital market. And because there's nothing guide, to control how you do things, and you get a leeway to do things which is hurting people. But
Yeah,
there's so much you have said there that open up that type of conversation,
yeah, no, that's
and
great.
but we're gonna go deeper as
Yes,
time progresses. We will go deeper into that field, because I do believe that 5 minutes or 10 minutes to discuss these alternative currencies totally inadequate to help people to understand it, because I think people already um, don't understand financial markets, and this in of itself it makes it even more complex and complicated for them. So I think even as we articulate the subject matter, we have to train ourselves to speak to it in very much a layman term, but they don't follow the language.
right.
But I'm going to come back to you, Elmore. Peter, your share before we begin to wrap things up. But I'm going to give Elmore a chance to speak before we wrap up. Peter,
Yeah,
all to you.
right. So there is so much for us to understand, and one of the things that I encourage individuals to do, to be responsible for or awareness that the world has changed, and it continue to change at such a rapid pace that we have to be, we cannot just think in terms of how we used to think even 5 years ago. As we often mention, even on this program, that individuals, it's important for individuals to get a mentor if you do not have one. But you cannot just remain in the field of going to work, coming home, sit in front of the television, and just watch. Because even just the speed of which technology is changing, there is so much that is being shifted in the world as technology advances, that individuals have to become aware of, or else you will be left behind. And in as we were even communicating about big ticket thinking, and understanding why businesses fail. Businesses fail when they are not keeping up to the speed of which the market is moving. Individuals will also fail when they are not keeping up with the speed of how the market is moving. And finance is changing. Finance is changing. The way what money is changing. The currency is changing. We have to understand, individuals have to, we do have to understand that the world is not the same. The United States of America, there are so many changes in what is happening in the United States. The very dollar that we have, the nature of it is changing. The laws governing what the US dollar is, it's changing. Nations around the world, in their feeling in doing business with the United States, is changing. And all of these things affect the way how you care for your family. It affects the way how you do business. Everything around us is changing. So the number one thing, why do businesses fail? Businesses fail, individuals fail when they are not abreast with what is happening in their world and what is happening in their markets. So what we're saying here today is not to alarm, it's not to bring alarm, but really to bring awareness. And what we're saying here is do your research for the sake of your family, for the sake of your own well-being, for the sake of your business. Understand what is happening in the world. Be very much in tune, and be ready to make shifts, to make changes when it so happens to need, when the need is so demands. Back to you, Gary.
All right, thanks for that share. And Peter, I'm just going to say a couple of things before I expand a little bit on some of the points that I've been making earlier. Of course, changes are taking place, and I do believe that people are those who drive change. I can recall many years ago, one of the insecurity that many persons have in developing middle income and developed economies, they had tremendous difficulty with uh, the paper trail. The paper trail from the perspective that once you're using currency the way it is, you're vulnerable. For example, you put, $1 million, $5 million into, your briefcase, your suitcase, your handbag, and you're navigating, the public domain with that type of cash. You are vulnerable to attacks. I can recall very often you sit in the boardroom and there's a lot of conversation about cash security, more secure forms or ways to navigate money. And it is out of those boardroom conversation, um, they start to talk about paperless financial transactions, which significantly enhances security and sets the stage also to enhance the speed in which financial transaction is done. So there are all of these changes that are taking place. So I do believe that there will continue to be, for many years to come, um, multiple financial best practices, perhaps, until a wide cross section of persons would have become familiar with some of the new development and perhaps adopt it. But I do believe that for a long time to come, we will have the various options available for people to be able to use. So there's a lot of work. I mean, my thought on this, the work has to be done in school. I mean, I do believe that if there's this type of macro shift that is going to be taking place, um, filtering down through the media is inadequate. It's a key player, but if there is going to be general consensus, it has to be a macro game plan. Where you have it's being rolled out into school and give people enough time to digest that. So unless that is done, you will continue to have the pushback on what is being perpetuated as the new and the better alternative. But I'm just going to try to conclude on some of the thoughts that I started on early on. In business, you want to position yourself to be that big ticket thinker. You want to learn, apply, and master the essential big ticket money habits. And what is essential to that is market intelligence. The last thing that you want to do is to be in business and you're using speculation as a subject matter expert.
Mm-hmm.
Already you've set yourself up to fail. You need to be guided by the data,
Mm-hmm.
all right? And whichever area of business you're going into, I just talk about stress testing it. Of course, the stress testing tools may change depending on the area that you're in, but in my last presentation, I identify a number of things that you need to stress test if you're going into an area of business. You want to be relevant. How do you know that? You want to know that the market is viable. How do you know that? You want to know that you have access to the ideal client. But how do you know that? You want to be certain that you're going to be reaching an urgent and immediate need. How do you know that? If you don't have the data, it means you're speculating. And if you're speculating, you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You also want to ensure that you're in a position of strength where you understand the ability of your clients to pay for your products and services. At the end of the day, it's a business. Yes, you're going to be committing to add value and fix problems, but at the end of the day, you want to know that that business is going to cash flow optimize, and you want to know that the ideal client has the ability to pay for your products and services. But how do you know this? You can't speculate your way to this. You can't assume this. You need to have the data. What is the data saying about this? If you don't have the data, it's another reason why you're going to fail,
Mm-hmm.
because you're using speculation as an expert opinion. Professionals don't do that. And the last point on here is that the ability to pay does not establish the willingness to pay. But how do you distinguish the two? And how do you put yourself in that position of strength to predetermine all of this? The common denominator in predetermining all of this is data.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have this data, you're going to set yourself up for failure.
Mm-hmm. Big time.
Again, you may not be the subject matter expert in this, but my advice to you is make sure that you get a mentor, make sure that you get a coach, make sure that you have a sponsor, be certain that you have a supportive community behind you that can really point you in the right direction. Again, you want the right mentors, the right coach, the right sponsors, the right supportive community that can really help you to expand the way you're thinking and put you on the right track. All right. So I'm going to pause here for now. I'm going to come to Elmore and ask Elmore to give us his closing thoughts.
Yeah.
I know that Elmore is in a very technical field. His book is Crypto 101, Understanding the Future of Money. Man, but my brother, people, you got some tough work there. We're going to help you to get that information out. And people don't even understand, the current nature of money, and spend so much of not enough time to understand it and to push them to the future of money.
Yeah.
It makes it even more difficult. But I do believe that it's an essential part of financial intelligence. I do believe that people need to understand the current realities of money. It's a part of financial intelligence. And also to understand what future currency means and perhaps how it can set you up for success. What I'm interested in a lot, Elmore, is as you articulate yourself around in future currencies, is to really help the audience to really see what financial opportunity lies there, and what makes those financial opportunities better
Mhm.
and more safer as an investment portfolio. I would really love, if not now, at some time, you can dig into that. And it's not just about saying a new currency is coming and be prepared
Mhm.
for the new currency. It's to really help them to understand what it means to them financially. So I'm going to give you a chance to give your share
Can I
and your closing thoughts.
a second? Because when you talk about people not understanding even the current state of money, much more to understand the future of money. But the future of money here in the here in New York City, future of money is happening because they are removing
No, Peter, we're not doubting that at all. I mean,
the
the
point.
change that is in the change in US is still slow compared to China.
Yeah, but
China has gone way ahead, so we're not challenging that.
so the point I'm trying to make, Gary, the point I'm trying to make that it's late if people are if people are waiting, and that's the point about awareness, and this is what this show is about, is getting
Yeah,
people,
it's late, but it goes to the point that I'm making still. They don't understand it. There's a reason why they're late.
and
So
that's
They don't
the point
they
where
don't understand it.
people
right.
ought that we ought to give the information. If they don't get it, if they don't understand it, then they need information. And if we do
But
not give them the information, then what's
all
going to
right. And that's why I
So
established some points early on.
yeah.
They are not micro um, pushbacks, they are micro pushbacks. And that's why I said if there's a national change that's going to be taking place, leadership should understand that, putting a press release, putting out some song bites is totally inadequate to affect the change.
and that's the problem, Gary.
So what's happening right now
Persons
is
who
a
are,
clear establishment of the problem.
but the persons
So
who are doing this, the government is not what, from my perspective, where religion and ministry and church is concerned, it is not the government. The government, a part of the issue is the government. We've just come through a pandemic. We do understand what that is like. A
all
part
right,
is
don't with all fairness to the government, I think a lot of the new financial models, especially those that Elmore is talking about, they're not necessarily government initiation. This is private sector driven initiations. A lot of them. Of course, China has gone a very far way into moving it from private sector into, state sponsored and financial changes. But you haven't pushed back even at the highest level. And there lies a challenge. There are one sector that is quite comfortable with the fiat,
So
one sector that are quite comfortable with that, and you have another sector that wants to create change because they want more privacy, more, and all of that. So there's no challenge with that. It doesn't change the fact that if we're going to create a platform for education
yeah.
and to make it universal, it has to be a macro approach to doing it, and that die is not cast as yet for that to happen.
So this is why
But
you need to get a copy of this. Because at the very beginning you're going to get a
El-
quick overview on what fiat currency is.
good. Let's get into some of the financial benefit of going the fiat, the cryptocurrency way. Let's look at
So
how the
yeah,
public
so
perhaps benefit financially from this.
I think one of the biggest things that the even bankers have had to sign NDAs, and I spoke to my personal ones, and they were like, yeah, but we don't want to tell the public because we don't want them to enter into a panic. Is that the ISO 222? It's live since already a year ago. So what that means is that the new monetary system, so just consider it as the SWIFT ecosystem, has transitioned over to this new system called ISO 222. Now, the whole entire world does use SWIFT to be able to do cross border payment transactions. This has already been changed onto the blockchain through the ISO 222. So this is already living in the blockchain. Our whole entire financial ecosystem, the ones that we know traditionally and the ones that we are still to learn about, they are all already migrated since last year to the blockchain. So individuals are going to get a rude awakening when they really learn that, well, because you didn't understand too much or you were not able to run into a book like Elmer's, to where you learn the ecosystem you operate in, and then you learn the ecosystem that's coming and how you can, take advantage and set yourself apart. It's what's going to cause individuals to fall into what's considered the central bank digital currency, because essentially they have little to no knowledge as to how to navigate, as to how to understand it. And this is the reason why I wrote all of this into a small package,
And more,
so that way
I'm with you.
people get it.
I'm with you. But the only point I'm trying to make, right, is that I am trying to set you up in a way for you to give me some sound bites
Somebody,
that is appealing. No, sound bites
yeah,
that it looks at the essential benefits of uh, adopting new ideas. Because I do believe that when we get into the logistics, in many cases, there is where we lose new listeners. And let me say what a lot of what you're saying, and we have to be conscious of this,
mhm,
it is happening in the developed world. It's happening in fast paced developing economies like China. All
mhm,
right. The challenge that we need to recognize is that in the wider uh, developing economies, there are perhaps not even much conversation about this at all. You have 361 whatever days in the year, and if they're talking 2 days about these things that you're talking about, they're talking a lot. So it's not really filtered down here. So a lot of what you're saying is going to go over their head. So the reason I'm trying to say, okay, let's take on some of those sound bites, how it can benefit me financially, how it can benefit you financially. Perhaps that can be the foundation that is being laid to say, hey, something new is happening.
yeah,
I need to be aware of this new wave that is going to take place in
mhm,
another 20, 30, 40 years is going to filter down here. But by then, I'm going to be
right.
strategically positioned from a competitive standpoint because I'm going to have, all these options available to me to help me to navigate.
Yes, I understand. Yeah, and this is great because we have still a window of time, because this has essentially just gotten implemented. So the whole entire ecosystem does not come live into 2025, as said by the Fed and as said by the WEF, that 80% of world banks were ready to launch CBDC by 2025. And so what I'm wanting to have individuals understand is that the ecosystems for these things to play, whether if it's a developing or non-developing country, the ecosystems that run the background have already been transitioned. And so that puts everyone, and not just in an undeveloped country, but in development country, it should put you at edge of why is it that your bankers have to sign NDAs on this information? That it's obviously would be something that will cause a little bit of hysteria in the marketplace, because individuals might are going to start to look at their currency and at their marketplace in a complete whole format. So this is, I think, the reason why I try to choose the most suitable way to be able to um, bring forth the idea that I don't want people to completely just lose their cool. I want individuals to understand that yes, we have on places that this is going to take a little bit longer to take effect. However, this change throughout the whole entire world has already taken place at the macro level. So the micro level, it's still something that we could discuss. Yes, it's still a time to go, but at the macro level, the changes have already been made. And so this is what I want individuals to understand the most, is that because these changes have already been made at the macro level, it's only going to be now the matter of
All
time
right.
for us to feel
I
this at
think,
the micro.
yeah, I think in cases of, the lingo that is being used, um, it really has to start from the micro level of
Right.
information dissemination. Um, I think, a lot of what is being said could be easily lost in translation,
Right.
and that's not what you want.
Right.
And
Right.
so we'll talk about it some more and see how we can develop the micro concepts,
Yeah.
and then eventually build it up into to the macro concept. But there's a lot to be discussed
Oh
here,
yeah. It's a lot to
and
divide.
this not is not what I'm doing is not necessarily a pushback on anything,
No, no.
but I do believe that you will have different views, similar views, and limited information, a search for information on a lot of these concepts that are coming up. One of the big questions that one may ask, we have China, Brazil, we have African countries, they're all coming together and they are seriously talking about that new currency, which is undermining the US dollars. And the big question one may want to ask, if those big players are coming together to form those currencies, would there be a time that they talk about, the cryptocurrency and the blockchain,
Right.
or would they be so comfortable with what they are doing that you will just have parallel financial institutions? So all of these are, conversations for us to have as we dig deeper into financial intelligence. And if they're putting so much of energy into creating the alternative financial dollar and to separate from the US dollars to establish what they call their own independence, there's a lot to be said in relation to that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a
All
lot.
right. So, but as time progresses, we will dig deeper. We will examine, and
Yeah.
to these big ticket money habits.
Right. Right. Right.
I try not to come here because I know it can become very complex for most of the listening audience, and we want to take them from the micro level and then bring them up to that macro level. But Peter, let me come to you for your closing thoughts and what we're looking at so far.
Right. So, in getting, as we mentioned, well, we started out about having ocean because what we find here, if I should just use Elmer as what to understand what the blue and the red ocean is concerned. So, even in financial markets and individuals understanding how to navigate their way in the financial market can seem like so much of a competitive space for individuals to understand. And so, what Elmer has done has created a blue market, well, a blue ocean. He has created his own blue ocean where he's able to tap into a particular area of finance where a great deal of individuals don't understand. So, for Elmer, his blue ocean is very, very blue because now he has so many persons that do not understand what digital currency is, what cryptocurrency is, and there are yet still very few books in the marketplace that gives that kind of information. So that's an example, a key example of what a blue ocean is, as against an individual who is doing, say, for instance, selling insurance, and the insurance field is a very red ocean because there are so many dynamic uh, 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 components to this area. There are so many competitions, so many companies selling to a small segment of individual. So that is what we're saying about breaking down categories. Yes, you're doing financial, you're in the financial market, but then look for an area that there is not much. And when we're able to do this, as I mentioned earlier, that every product and service in the marketplace, it's going to be relative to one of those areas. It is either it's going to be in the health, it's going to be and human growth, and this is why we so much talk about human growth, because every business is designed to provide human growth and development. So it is going to break down, and human growth and human growth is packaged, that big element of serving human needs is broken down in three components. It's either going to be a health related issue, or it's going to be a wealth related issue, or it's going to be a relationship issue, or it's going to be a time factor that's there to do with health, wealth, or relationship. Breaking these down into smaller components as you want to develop your big ticket item. Build your big ticket item, kind of sort of like what Elmer is doing now. He has found an area that is not very much people are up there. And there you'll be able now to deep dive and now attract persons to understand your market. And you can build a business around people's ignorance by making people more aware of what they're ignorant of what they do not know, making more people, then you can build an ecosystem on that in that support structure.
Oh, that's great.
All right, Peter, thanks for that share. More, your closing thoughts?
Yes, no, I am very excited to be able to share. Sorry, because my voice, I'm a little bit sick, but we're working through this. But I'm very excited to be able to be here and be able to share with you guys the thoughts and to be able to have the back and forth here, because it allows me to understand more that there is a need that needs to be fulfilled, that it's very little understood to no understanding on. And I like to be the one that is going to take the first, how can I say this, the first batch of hits from everyone that might be feeling content with the thought process or the information that's being conveyed, because it really does kind of it really does shake in your belief system that you have believed throughout your whole entire lifetime. And so this is not just information that I have access to, but that anyone, if you learn the right things to look for in the marketplace, you would be able to get into the what or how can I don't want to call it
Yeah,
scam. I want to call it the whole entire game. So understanding the game becomes vital when you don't understand the new facet of the game. And I think that's
yeah.
what accomplish
You're
what.
right. You're
Right.
right on those points. But let me tell you what has created a lot of challenge in your sector. One time, persons will profess that there is no risk in investing in blockchain and cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. They say no risk because it is so secure, and you have your digital wallets, and you have to use these special codes, and there's no back-end access. And so that information has become very popular and stimulating, consumer interest. And then subsequent to that, another information came out that technology is vulnerable, and you have some technology genius who crack the code, and they're able to get into your wallet, and all of these different things happen. So I think one of the challenges when you tend to get these conflicting reports, and it really shatters or it affects how opinions are formed
Right.
and in relation to any investment portfolio. And
You're
to
right.
compound with that, we had millions of people across the world over many years who have been burnt
Right.
by some of these suppositions and impositions, and and things. So you have to be a genius and cutting against all of those brands and to put the brand out there. I'm not saying that it's not need to be done.
Right.
I mean, we have some great minds who are in the sector. I think Ray Dalio is it Ray Dalio or
Yeah.
the poster boy,
Kevin Riley.
and some of these guys who are expert in the ETF markets, and they are now dabbling, and they have influenced the sector to the extent where they have created ETF portfolios
Mhm.
in the similar sectors. But there's a lot that is going on, so a lot of work has to be done. The poster boy, he has luckily navigated the Sam Bankman-Fried saga skillfully,
Work for the
navigated.
SEC.
Exactly. All right. And so all of these things are things, and people, it makes the general public have that kind of concern. We cannot disregard it and say, in spite of all of that, it is the best thing that ever happened to the world. We have to know or advocate of that financial model. They have to really perhaps bring in the best and in psychologists to really cut through this, the best in public speakers and skilled communicators to filter that information out, because the possibility exists that the more you say, the more you lose an audience because it is not being said in the right way. And all that I can do is share with you what is some of my exposure. I've sat at boardrooms and I've heard intellectuals just by looking at the facts. The facts is that it's not bulletproof from risk.
Right.
And because they have their own experience, remember, your experience becomes your reality.
Right.
And what has become their reality is that any and everything that is said about, the alternative, it's a fraud. So you have a lot. I have sat in boardroom where that has been said. So sometimes when you come out to the boardroom and then you look at international news, and international news is saying that we have these multi-billionaires who, in U.S. standards, that are building these portfolio, it creates a cloud. So one has to be very aware
Mhm.
of what are the realities, what is being said, the different realities. In this context, you have different realities based on different experiences,
Right.
and it's us to be able to be mature and skilled enough and to speak to it.
Right.
So I
Well,
must say that I really admire the path that you're on. You have a Hercules task. But of course, we are here to give you the support to
yes.
get the information out.
Thank you so much.
I know I caught you, but take the time to conclude, my friend.
Well, thank you. So yeah, so just everyone remember that Crypto 101, understanding the future of money, it's ready to be put on your hands so that you can take a really good read and have a gazillion other questions that might come out of what you're reading. I want people to really get to understand the microeconomic level things, but I want individuals to get a hands of what the micro level is not showing, but that the macro is showing, so that you start to get an understanding. Because this is how we are able to get ahead of the curve, is by being able to see. How can I say this? Jim Rohn said it best. It's not the win, it is the set of the sail, and my sail has been set regardless of what the win is. Because I have found information and I have a complete different perspective from most, that I love to share all the time. And so, understanding that now we have so many other things coming into the marketplace, like the United States dollar by next year might not even be the United States dollar anymore. Now we might have a complete different currency, because they're talking about bringing it back to gold back. So they're going to try to bring it back United States currency status, which is the same thing that Zimbabwe has just done, and something that the European Union is attempting to do. This is, when you start to look at macro level things, and you start to see how much gold is being moved around the world, and how all of these other countries, even the BRICS countries, are consuming massive amounts of gold because they're trying to create a gold-backed digital currency. Now you start to get the perspective that, wait a second, it is not just holding gold, it is now being able to hold gold on the blockchain. And so now we have the with HSBC Bank from Japan. They're the first ones essentially who have tokenized gold. So now their clients is able to take their gold in a token. They don't have to have the hard work of trying to move the gold around. Now they can use it. I'm sorry. Now they can use it in the form of a token. So to be able to have real assets get tokenized, which is the next big thing that you have Jimmy Dimon talking about from Chase, and you have the BlackRock talking about it, which they're talking about tokenization really big. This is something now that we have to put into our front view, because if we don't understand little of tokenization, and you have already these big names talking and praising the tokenization future, well, there's something that we need to start to look at. There's something that we need to start to learn about, because if the whole entire tokenization of real world assets, which means that they're going to connect everything physical to the blockchain, that's completely brings a whole new perspective on how the marketplace is going to work. And that's something that we need to, when we hear those things, we need to start to get an understanding and to start to do a little bit of research, and at least to get the concept in your mind, so that you get a better understanding. So these are things that I believe are going to change the whole entire ecosystem for everyone, that it's on the unknown side. So this is, well, the reason why I say this is because it's going to hit you like a freight train. These changes are going to come in without notice. Now we have seen like countries like China, we have seen countries like Nigeria that have completely kind of turned the dial back a little bit, and they have become a little bit more complacent. Like China allowed the
Oh,
ETF with Bitcoin. They didn't want Bitcoin nowhere near China. And then you have the Nigerians that essentially were like, well, wait a second, we do not like this CBDC thing. We would like to keep back into cash, the way we were used to do things, the way we could be autonomous. So as the whole entire world starts to go through these shifts and changes, we have to keep an eye out, because as these new changes have been put in place, we might not have these changes for long, because of the way people might just completely react to it. So
oh.
and so
All
this
right.
this is really great. I'm sorry I took
Oh,
the time.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're saying a lot, but you also mentioned, and just responding to your closing remarks, you mentioned the HSBC bank, and I trust that you're aware also that that bank has come under a lot of flood, a lot of scrutiny by America. So I don't know if that reached the international standard in terms of using that as the poster boy who is accepting and responding to these different type of currency. They have been accused of a whole lot of things, and perhaps part of what they are doing is to support the transition, because the transition is going to allow them to function in more secrecy in whatever they are doing
Right.
in the underworld. I'm just saying. So,
Right.
this is what I'm saying. And the issue that is being discussed here, as you speak to one thing, when you have the knowledge experts on board, as you bring up and you open up another can of worm, and it makes the argument not as strong as you want it to be. But again, I just want to say, you
No,
have
no,
a
no. And this is
you
the
have
thing.
a
That is
uh,
not just that bank. There's 80% of bankers in Japan. We in my mind, Japanese individuals are a bit more intellectual when it comes to finances, because I have one of the books that they cost us like
No,
over
but I'm not
dollars
challenging
on
the,
finance.
yeah, I'm not
But
challenging the
no.
intellectuality.
But here's a point I want to bring up is that
The
not
challenge
just
that
the
I
fact
just
that the
posed,
tokenization aspect is there, but
uh,
that the whole 80% left of not just the HBC, but I'm talking about the banks of Japan. 80% of bankers of Japan have already jumped on the ledger, and so just to put it,
no, I'm not talking about the wider. I'm being specific here,
of
and that's
course,
to the HSBC that you have just referenced.
yes,
Um,
yes, they've
my
been on the ledger.
point that I've just made there is that they have come under tremendous international, uh, scrutiny. We know that, their particular sector that likes the bank because the bank allows for certain accommodation of certain, activities.
Right,
But of course, when we are talking about the average person and taking their average dollars to put it into an investment portfolios, we want to know that we're giving the average person the right information so as
yes,
to ensure that they're making a smart and educated decision. You don't want to necessarily put your funding into any institution only to know that a sanction is going to come, and because that sanction, your investment comes on the trap. But
right,
as I said, these are things that they go deep, and as time progress, we perhaps will have single project just looking at this
oh
here.
yeah, there's so much more I
So
would to put.
we look at your views compared to alternative views, and really bring different thoughts out there.
Yeah,
There you
yes,
had it,
yes,
audience. Today has been a little bit more spicier than usual. We had some, deep thinking into financial matters. We try not to get here often, but you will tell us if you like it, and perhaps if you like it, we can come here a little bit more often. But I trust that you would have enjoyed today's program and big ticket money habits and why businesses fail. Today we look at the importance of having data. So everything that we have talked about, you see the importance of data because without data, I could not have given an alternative view based on the HSBC banks. And so you need data. You either have to ensure that you have that knowledge or you research that knowledge and you're able to dig deep into things that are, being said. At the end of the day, you want to be an educated consumer
right,
and or ensure that you're surrounding yourself with people that have the body of knowledge that can really help you to make a better, smarter business and life and decision. So with that being said, I want to thank Frank. I want to thank Peter. I want to thank Elmore for always showing up and giving their views. We don't have to agree with each other. We are not here necessarily to agree with each other. We have different views,
hmm,
and I think that's what makes us unique. The
hmm,
fact that we have different views and we're prepared to represent those different views, and we are prepared to deal with it in a very mature and civilized manner. So, with that being said, I want to thank all of you for being here today, and we'll do this again on Friday.